Welcome back to Unirunner Video Drum Lessons. I'm Darren Mathis, and this week we're going to talk about how you can set up two very different acoustic drum setups in church. Now, even if you don't play drums in church, you might be interested in a few of the topics I'm going to cover because they have to do with sound isolation and also monitoring. Now, if you played drums in church before, you know how it can be a challenge to keep control of the sound at times. The overall volume of the band is often more subject to creating a level that's conducive to singing within the congregation. So let's take a closer look at two acoustic drum setups that I've played on recently and some advantages and disadvantages. So here are some, in my opinion, a few points to consider.
Now, this setup at the church at the gate in Sioux Falls uses an in-ear monitoring system, and I like the way it's set up straight across with the drums on the side. I could actually see what was going on when I was playing with the band there recently. By the way, if you haven't heard any Christian music lately or never heard any Christian music that you've liked, the band here at Church at the Gate plays some of the best Christian music I've heard lately. I encourage you to check out some music like what they play. Is an example would be Hillsong United. I mean, the drumming bands like Hillsong United, I just bought their album Look to You recently, and the drumming rivals that of any genre in pure energy, groove, and precision. So the advantage of this setup, where you've got the kit enclosed behind plexiglass and an in-ear monitoring system, you've got a great amount of control over the volume of the drums. In fact, the isolation was so good that I had to yell in order for the other band members to hear what I was saying during rehearsal. Since the kit is entirely mic'd, the person running the soundboard can very effectively mix the drum sound with the rest of the musicians through the sound system without having to contend with the stage volume. The in-ear monitoring system allows better control of what you're hearing. There's little to no stage volume because the guitar speakers are muffled, and it's very easy to lock in with the bassist, guitarist, and keyboard and other musicians because you can hear them so clearly through the in-ear monitoring system. Because of the isolation, and this particular plexiglass shield has a roof and also barriers in front of the kick drum, you don't have to hold back and you can hit the drums as hard as you like. There's a stool nearby which holds a metronome for getting the tempo for the beginnings of songs and the in-ear monitoring amp. In this setup you can control your own volume, but the person on the soundboard has to raise and lower the level of the individual instruments in your monitor mix. So some of the disadvantages with this setup, with the isolation of the booth and the inability to hear what's going on around you, you really need a person on the soundboard to dial in your monitor mix and to adjust it for you and your bandmates during rehearsal. So it's a high maintenance kind of setup, and you may feel a bit cut off from everyone else when you first start off in the room behind the plexiglass. And you'll need a mic in order probably to communicate with your bandmates, or you might have to yell in order for them to hear you through the plexiglass. Now, this kit at Sunnycrest Church in Sioux Falls is not mic'd at all. There are no enclosures around it. It's pretty much out in the open. It is situated in a corner of the sanctuary, which helps it to project. Now, here the sanctuary is set up for our vacation Bible school, so that's why it looks a bit odd for a church. This setup has a wedge and hotspot monitoring system, so you don't need to rely as heavily on the sound person to dial in your monitor mix. I mean, you're going to be getting many ambient sounds coming from all the other monitors and amps, so it's lower in maintenance in general. Some of the disadvantages, though, it doesn't go through the PA system. Some of the drums is picked up in other microphones, but the overall volume of the drums for the most part is entirely up to the drummer, and the drum sound can easily bleed into the mics of the other musicians, which makes the drum sound really hard to control. Now, these hotspot monitors are nice because you can position them close to your head, so you don't really have to turn them up very loud, but the other monitors may still need to be turned up for the other musicians in order to hear themselves over the drums, which really increases the stage volume and makes it harder for the person on the soundboard to get a good mix in the mains because they already have this muddy stage noise to contend with. So there you have just a few quick points on the enclosed and the open air setups with wedge and hotspot monitoring systems and also in-ear monitoring systems. I've had great experiences in both situations. I think you just need to experiment with things. No one setup is going to work for every situation. So the key is to be flexible and ready to adapt to any situation that you might come into.
So there's a few points to consider when playing acoustic drums and setting up acoustic drums in church. Either way, I'm much happier playing acoustic than electric. I don't know if the nuances of an acoustic kit will ever truly be captured in an electronic kit, although I know electronic kits are an option, or a viable option for many churches. Whichever way you go, I encourage you to explore playing in new and interesting venues and using your talents to serve others. And now it's time to draw a name for the 2 vintage logo drum heads that were donated to give away from last week. I want to thank Dave Johnston, Jeremy Godrow, and Jeffrey Powers for donating to Unirunner Video Drum Lessons. Put your name in a hat. And the winner of the drum head is Dave Johnston. Well, Dave, I'll ship those drum heads to you, and thanks again for supporting Unirunner Video Drum Lessons. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Unirunner Video Drum Lessons. Until next time, keep practicing, and God bless.